You think an employee security keycard is just a piece of plastic? At my company, one snip of scissors on that keycard brought 15 years of defense certification crashing down. The CEO thought he was in charge. His son thought he owned the future. Only I knew the system was waiting for one wrong move to execute them both. My name is Caleb Patterson. I'm 47 years old, and I'm the Senior Compliance Director and Chief Security Officer for Lone Star Defense Technologies. Our office complex sits in North San Antonio, a cluster of steel and glass buildings baking in the Texas heat, where suburban sprawl meets the serious business of defense contracting. This is where military discipline meets corporate politics, and I've been walking that line for 15 years. My routine is the backbone of our operations. I'm not superstitious, but I am methodical. My F-150 pulls into parking space B-18 at exactly 7:45 every morning. Not 7:44, not 7:46. By 7:52, I've badged through 3 separate security doors, and I'm standing in the break room waiting for the coffee machine to finish brewing my 16-ounce black coffee. No cream, no sugar. When you've spent time in the Air Force, you learn to appreciate things for exactly what they are. Before I even take my jacket off, I'm at my terminal. First thing I do is check the compliance dashboard. It's my morning inspection, my daily status report. Green lights across the board. That's what I'm looking for. For 15 years, the entire structure of Lone Star's federal security certification has been tied to my digital signature, my credentials, my clearance profile. They're not just mine, they're the company. They're the master key that lets us bid on and win the kind of $5 billion to $7 billion contracts that keep the lights on and our competitors awake at night. Our CEO, Robert Sterling, dreams about the stock prices these contracts generate. I dream about the catastrophic failure that's waiting if we make one mistake. I'm the guardian of our promise to the United States government, a promise that we handle, store, and protect sensitive information according to regulations thicker than a truck manual. My profile is the seal on that promise. My office isn't really an office. It's part of what the engineers call the secure wing. No windows. The air hums with industrial chillers and backup power supplies. This is the company's nerve center, a series of locked rooms housing our audit servers, physical log storage, and encrypted backup systems. The sales team with their bright ties and expensive cars never come here. HR with their team-building workshops avoids it completely. They treat it like a utility room, a place where the serious work gets done out of sight. They're not wrong. I am the chief engineer of compliance. I live in the secure wing. I walk the aisles between server racks, blue and green status lights blinking in the dimness. I check seals on fireproof safes that hold hard copy incident logs. My real desk faces a bank of monitors. The main one shows system status, green and stable. The primary modules read like a checklist. Custody ledger verified by C. Patterson. Duty sync verified by C. Patterson. Incident archive verified by C. Patterson. My name is the lock on everything. Around 9 o'clock, when the day shift settles in, the requests start coming. Not from executives, but from the people who actually build the systems we sell. Adrian Fletcher, a project manager who always looks like he's running on 3 hours of sleep, appears at my door. He never steps all the way in. "Caleb, you got a minute?" he asks, holding his laptop like a shield. "What's the situation, Adrian?" Quick email going to the client at Randolph Air Force Base. Just a status update, but it mentions the new firmware package. Can you take a look? He knows what I know. That status update and firmware package are trigger words for a federal auditor. I take the laptop, read the draft, find the 2 sentences that are technically accurate but contextually dangerous. I rewrite them, replacing vague promises with precise approved terminology from our last audit report. "That," I say, handing it back, "is what you mean to say." He reads it and visibly relaxes. "Man, Caleb, you're a lifesaver. Coffee's on me tomorrow. Just file the draft, Adrian." An hour later, Wesley Grant from IT Security pings me on instant message. Got a weird flag in the access log. Port scan from an internal IP I don't recognize. Looks like someone was trying to query the archive. Before I lock the account, can you confirm this isn't one of your audit scripts? I check my automated tasks. Not mine. Wesley, lock it down and send me the incident log when you're done. I need it for the weekly report. Will do. Thanks. This is my world. A world of precise actions, verified steps, and mutual respect built on competence. Adrian and Wesley don't respect me because I outrank them. They respect me because I read the manual, and when the auditors show up, I'm the one standing between them and a career-ending finding. In the Air Force, we had a saying, "Trust is built in drops and lost in buckets." These guys trust me because I've never let a single drop hit the floor. But for the last few weeks, the air in the rest of the building has felt different. There's an energy building, like static before a storm. There's a new initiative driven by HR and the executive floor, culture and innovation, they call it. More all-hands meetings than ever, run by consultants who throw around terms like breaking down silos and digital-first mindset. These words make me cold. They're the language of people who've never had to explain a data breach to a federal agent. Breaking silos sounds like destroying access controls. Digital-first mindset sounds like forgetting that the most sensitive data must, by law, be stored offline. I sit in the back of these town halls, arms crossed, watching risk radiate from PowerPoint slides like heat from an engine. Block. Today, that feeling is about to get a whole lot worse. Walking from the secure wing to refill my coffee, my 10:30 refill, always, I pass the main bulletin board. There's a new poster, glossy and professional, completely out of place against the usual backdrop of safety notices and benefits reminders. The poster announces a mandatory town hall, reimagining operations with the next generation. Below the title is a photograph. On one side is Robert Sterling, our CEO, wearing his usual political smile. Standing next to him, hand on Robert's shoulder, is a younger man I've never seen before. He's wearing an expensive suit, no tie, and a pair of shiny sneakers that probably cost more than most people's monthly car payment. He has the kind of haircut that costs $200 and is designed to look messy. This must be the son, the one who, according to office rumors, crashed a tech startup in California and is now coming home to Daddy's company. His name is printed below the photo, Tyler Sterling. He's been brought in, as the whispers call it. His new title, created just for him, is Vice President of Digital Innovation. It's a title that means everything and nothing, a cloud of expensive-sounding words designed to hide the fact that he's the CEO's son and needs a place to land. The Reimagining Operations Town Hall is mandatory. The main conference room, usually reserved for client presentations, is packed. I find my usual spot in the back corner against the wall. From here, I can see the exits, and more importantly, I can see everyone's reactions. Tyler Sterling doesn't walk to the podium. He emerges. He's wearing a slim-fit vest over a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled up just enough to show off a watch that could probably buy a decent used car. His shoes are, as I noted from the poster, impossibly shiny. He moves with practiced confidence, like a TED Talk speaker who's never actually built anything. Thank you, he says into the microphone. It's incredible to be here, to be home, to help my father bring Lone Star into the next phase of its evolution. Behind him, a massive screen lights up. The slide deck is all high-resolution images in aggressive fonts. The first slide just says Operation Phoenix over a stylized graphic of a bird rising from flames. I've seen this movie before, usually right before everything burns down. For too long, he continues, pacing like a panther in a cage, Lone Star has been doing incredible work, but we've been doing it with one hand tied behind our back. We've been weighed down by legacy thinking, by friction, by processes built for a world that no longer exists. He clicks a remote. The next slide appears, Kill the Paper Dinosaur. It shows a cartoon T-Rex being crushed by a meteor labeled Data. The metaphor is about as subtle as a sledgehammer. We're moving to an agile, digital-first framework, he says, his voice smooth and empty. We're going to break silos. We're going to innovate at the speed of thought. We're going to disrupt the old ways. He pauses, scanning the room. His eyes sweep across the executives in the front row, the managers in the middle, and finally land on me in the back. I'm not looking at him. I'm looking at a printout of new federal data residency policy that I'm marking up with a red pen. Actual paper, old school. Legacy roles, he says, his voice dropping slightly, will need to evolve or they'll need to vanish. His gaze lingers on me, just a second too long. It's a calculated move, a public marking of territory. The message is clear. The paper dinosaur in the back, the one with the red pen, is on the extinction list. I've been in the military. I know what it looks like when someone declares war. A few people in the middle rows, mostly the new marketing hires, nod enthusiastically. Adrian and Wesley, sitting 3 rows ahead of me, suddenly find the carpet very interesting. They know this playbook too. They've seen what happens when consultants start talking about disrupting mission-critical systems. I don't feel fear. I don't even feel anger. What I feel is a cold, detached amusement, because as he continues launching into word salad about synergizing our data lineage, I realize he just mispronounced the name of the CMMC framework. He called it CMMC, letter by letter, like a kid sounding out a word, instead of CMIC as a single designation. It's a tiny thing, a mistake only I and maybe 3 other people in this room would catch. But it tells me everything. He's read the buzzwords, but he's never read the book. He's memorized the PowerPoint, but he's never sat across from a federal auditor who's asking why your logs don't match your procedures. He talks about his last role. At my previous venture, he says, we revolutionized the compliance space. We took a process that took 6 weeks and automated it down to 3 hours. We optimized everything. I looked up that startup when the rumors first started flying. They were building a payment app for millennials. They burned through $30 million in venture capital before folding like a house of cards. They never touched a government contract, never faced a DoD audit, never had to explain to a 3-star general why their system went down. Their idea of compliance was probably a standard PCI certification, something my team does in its sleep between real work. He's comparing the security of a digital wallet to the architecture that protects classified weapons schematics. It's like comparing a bicycle lock to Fort Knox and wondering why one costs more than the other. When the presentation ends, there's confused applause. Robert Sterling stands up and claps loudest, his face beaming with paternal pride. That's my boy, he mouths to the CFO, who looks like he's already calculating the cost of this particular family reunion. As the room breaks up, Tyler works the crowd, shaking hands and clapping shoulders like a politician at a town hall. He's moving in my direction, cutting off my exit route. This isn't coincidence, this is strategy. He wants this conversation to happen in public, with witnesses. Quite a presentation, I say when he reaches me, my voice flat as West Texas. Thanks. Just trying to shake things up, he says, running a hand through his expensive hair. You're Caleb Patterson, the compliance king. Senior Compliance Director and Chief Security Officer, I correct him. They're distinct functions with different legal responsibilities. Right. Look, I was checking out your department's metrics, he says, leaning in conspiratorially like we're old buddies sharing secrets. Lot of manual processes, lot of paper. He gestures at the documents in my hand. I'm all about automation. I want to automate this entire wing. We can't be agile if we're dragging anchors. He pauses, and I can see him building up to his main point. I mean, do we really need a single dedicated person as custodian? It seems like a bottleneck, a single point of failure. There it is. He's not asking a question. He's stating a conclusion he's already reached. He wants to replace a federally mandated human checkpoint with software he probably read about in a Medium article. He thinks compliance is just another app waiting to be disrupted. I look at him for a long moment, studying his face. He has the confidence of someone who's never had to clean up his own messes. The feds need a person, Tyler, not a slide deck. They need someone who goes to jail if the data walks. The system is built on human accountability. Your software can't take that oath. His smile tightens like a guitar string about to snap. The easy charisma vanishes from Tyler's face, replaced by cold annoyance. This is a man who's not used to being contradicted, especially by someone who's not even a VP. He's used to people laughing at his jokes and calling him Mr. Sterling. I've done neither. Well, he says, voice suddenly brisk, that's the legacy thinking I'm talking about. We'll have to agree to disagree. For now. He turns and stalks toward his father, leaving expensive cologne in his wake. But I catch something in his eyes before he walks away. Not just annoyance, but calculation. He's not done with me. This was just reconnaissance. I go back to the secure wing. The hum of servers is a comfort after the noise of the town hall. I sit at my terminal and check my dashboard again. Green lights across the board. Everything stable. Verified by C. Patterson, for now. An hour later, a new email pops into my inbox. Sender, Tyler Sterling, subject line, mandatory review of obsolete controls. I open it. Meeting invitation for 9:30 tomorrow morning. My name is the only one on the required attendee list. There's a short agenda with one item tagged in red: review and reassessment of custodian role. He's moving fast, faster than I expected. Corporate nepotism usually moves at the speed of molasses, but Tyler's got something to prove. I'm about to close the email when I get a cold feeling in my gut, the same feeling I used to get in the Air Force when something wasn't right on the flight line. I open my admin console and check the provisioning logs, the ones that show when new credentials are created, modified, or accessed. Standard procedure for someone in my position. Trust but verify, as Reagan used to say. There it is, an entry from 8:15 this morning, just before the town hall. A new user credential, T. Sterling, was created with view-only access to the staging environment. Not the live system, but the sandbox where we test new code before pushing it to federal sync modules. It's still highly sensitive territory. I pull up the training certification database. To get any level of access to that system, federal regulations require completion of a 4-hour mandatory training course on data handling, incident reporting, and legal liabilities. A course that I personally must administer and certify. Tyler Sterling's name isn't anywhere on the training roster. His father gave him a key to the vault without bothering to teach him which way the door opens. He's not just a risk, he's an active, unauthorized incident, and I know exactly what to do with those. That night, I don't sleep much. It's a side effect of a job where you're paid to anticipate disaster. At 1:47 in the morning, my phone gives a single silent buzz on my nightstand. Not a call or text, a high-priority alert from a monitoring script I wrote years ago. An alert I've never seen trigger before. I get out of bed and walk to my home office. I log into my private admin console, a back door that only I have the keys to. The system is flagging repeated failed authentication attempts against the vendor risk portal. The attempts aren't coming from a recognized IP address. They're sophisticated, cycling through different credentials, trying to find a weakness. Then at 2:15 a.m., the attempts stop. A new log entry appears. A temporary administrative account linked to the executive sandbox environment has successfully authenticated. I trace the IP address. It's masked, but the subnet routes directly to the newly configured executive block, Tyler's office. He's not just looking at the staging environment anymore. He's in the live portal, the one that connects directly to DoD systems. He's not just poking at locks, he's picking them. And he's doing it at 2:15 in the morning when he thinks nobody's watching. In my world, when you find a fire, you don't pull the public alarm and run into the hallway screaming. That just gets you burned. You do what survivors do. You note the time, location, and source of the accelerant. You take pictures. You build your case. I open a new folder on an encrypted, air-gapped drive, a habit I built over 15 years of watching ambitious people take dangerous shortcuts. I take full screenshots of the logs, export the raw data complete with IP addresses, timestamps, and the specific queries he attempted. I name the folder T. Sterling Compliance Review and lock the drive in my home safe. This isn't just about protecting myself anymore. This is about protecting every engineer, every project manager, every good person in that building who's going to get blamed when this house of cards comes crashing down. The review of obsolete controls meeting at 9:30 the next morning feels different now. I'm not walking in to defend my job, I'm walking in to interview a suspect. The only question is whether he's smart enough to realize he's already confessed. Tyler is already in the glass-walled conference room on the executive floor when I arrive. He has a spread of pastries in the center of the table, and a venti cup of something that probably costs more than most people spend on lunch. He's all smiles, the picture of a modern disruptive leader. "Caleb, glad you could make it." "Grab a Danish," he says, gesturing with a manicured hand that's clearly never changed a tire or fixed anything more complex than a smartphone. "I'm good." "What's this about, Tyler?" He clicks a remote with the confidence of someone who's never had to defend his slides to people who actually know what they're talking about. The wall display lights up with charts and graphs that look impressive until you realize they don't actually measure anything meaningful. Title slide, De-risking Lone Star, identifying single points of failure. "This," he says, beginning his rehearsed pacing routine, "is about the future. I've been doing a deep dive into our operational architecture, and I found a significant risk vector, our entire federal compliance framework. It all hinges on you." He clicks to the next slide. It's an org chart with a big red flashing circle around my title, like a target painted on a bunker. "In modern tech," he says, "we call this a single point of failure." One person. If you get sick, if you quit, if you get hit by a bus, the whole system breaks. We're exposed. Our contracts are at risk. It's an obsolete control. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment. I look at his slide, then at him. He's used a lot of words to say absolutely nothing of substance. You're using the wrong terminology, I say, my voice quiet. In my experience, the quieter you speak, the more people listen. Excuse me? The Pentagon, the DoD, all our three-letter agency clients. They don't call a certified individual a single point of failure. That's startup language. In their world, the world we actually operate in, the custodian of record is called a single anchor point. I lean forward slightly. A failure point is a bug, something that breaks the system. An anchor point is a design requirement, something that keeps the system stable. It's the known, verified, legally accountable human who signs the affidavit, who holds the keys, and who takes the call at 3 a.m. when a log entry doesn't look right. His face is starting to change. The easy confidence is cracking around the edges. You're proposing we cut the ship's anchor because it's heavy, without realizing it's the only thing keeping us from drifting into the rocks. Tyler's face darkens. That's just semantics, Caleb. We can build a better automated system, a system that doesn't rely on one person's keycard. He leans forward, putting his hands flat on the polished table, trying to use his physical presence to intimidate me. It might work on marketing interns, but I've been stared down by drill sergeants and federal auditors. This doesn't even register. If your system is so fragile that it would collapse because of one employee keycard, then maybe the problem isn't with me. Maybe the problem is with your system. This is it. This is the moment. He's not just being arrogant. He's telegraphing his next move. He's telling me exactly what he plans to do. I look him dead in the eyes. You won't like the system's answer, Tyler. He scoffs, a sharp, ugly sound. Is that a threat? It's a log entry, I reply calmly. Systems answer with data. You should know that, given your extensive background in compliance architecture. The sarcasm hits its mark. His jaw tightens. Now, if you're done with your theory presentation, I have actual incident reports to review. I stand up and walk toward the door, leaving him alone in his glass box with his pastries and his worthless slides. But I can feel his eyes on my back, and I know this isn't over. He's not the type to back down from a challenge. He's going to escalate. And when he does, he's going to find out that I've been building defenses for a lot longer than he's been building PowerPoints. The invitation appears 2 days later. Operational Evolution Summit. Mandatory for all operations and compliance leads. I know this isn't a summit. It's a public execution scheduled by a man who needs an audience to feed his ego. But first, I have work to do. I write a formal memo to Charlotte Wilson, our general counsel. Charlotte is old school, smart, and absolutely terrified of federal lawsuits. I don't use emotional language. I use her language, the kind that makes lawyers wake up in cold sweats. Subject: formal notification of unauthorized credential escalation and impediment of mandated succession protocol. In the memo, I lay out the facts with surgical precision. I cite the specific federal regulations that mandate the custodian role and the required 90-day succession buffer. I state that I'm officially warning the company that Tyler Sterling has voiced clear intent to interfere with mandated controls. I attach the logs from 2:15 that morning showing unauthorized executive access outside all training protocols. I file the memo in the official compliance repository. The system automatically timestamps it and sends a high-priority notification to Charlotte's inbox. I get the read receipt 5 minutes later. She's seen it. Now they can't claim ignorance. The meeting is in the main conference room on the executive floor, Tyler's chosen arena. When I arrive, the room is packed. Tyler is pacing in front of the lectern wearing his uniform, the tight vest, rolled sleeves, expensive watch. He's feeding on nervous energy from junior managers he's positioned in the front row like cheerleaders. We must be faster, he says, his voice amplified by the room's sound system. We need agility. We can't be chained to the past. We must stop trusting only people and start trusting our systems. The junior managers nod and scribble buzzwords on their notepads. In the back, Adrian and Wesley are studying the carpet with the intensity of archaeologists. They know what he's really saying. He wants to drive the company at 100 mph in the dark with the headlights off. He finishes his slide deck and opens the floor for discussion on new draft policies that were conveniently sent out only an hour before this meeting. Classic power move. Don't give people time to actually read what you're proposing. My hand goes up. His smile becomes a thin, bright line. He can't ignore me in a room this full. Ah, Caleb, our custodian, do you have a thought? A clarification, I say. My voice isn't loud, but it cuts through the shuffling like a knife. I'm looking at the new draft policy, Section 4, Subsection B, Data Retention. I hold up the printout. Always bring the printout. This draft proposes changing mandatory log retention from 12 months to 60 days. Tyler waves dismissively like swatting a fly. That's right. We're cutting the fat, streamlining operations. 60 days is more than enough in a dynamic cloud environment. We need storage space. We need to be nimble. This isn't about nimble, Tyler. I keep my voice level, professional. Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement 703, subsection D, clearly states that all access logs related to DoD contracts must be retained for minimum 1 full fiscal year post-contract closure. Our 12-month policy is already the bare minimum. 60 days is a direct violation. The room goes absolutely silent. I haven't just disagreed. I've cited chapter and verse. I've spoken scripture in a room full of believers. Tyler's face goes dark. The smooth performer vanishes, and I see the spoiled child underneath. You're quoting regulations that are decades old. This is the cloud era. Who's actually checking 12-month-old logs? Nobody. It's bureaucratic waste. Isabella Martinez is, I say. The name of our lead federal auditor lands in the room like a block of ice. She is, and she will. When she finds we've been systematically purging evidence logs after 60 days, she won't call it agile. She'll call it gross negligence. She'll call it spoliation. She'll initiate a stop work order and fine us into oblivion. I pause, letting that sink in. You're not writing a policy, Tyler. You're writing a finding. You're drafting the very document that will cost this company its federal certification. You are the bottleneck, Caleb, he shouts, pointing at me like a prosecutor making his case. You're the friction. You're the legacy thinking. And there it is, he's done with subtlety. He starts walking toward me, not fast, but deliberate. A slow, theatrical march down from the front of the room toward my seat in the second row. You and your paper, he says, voice low and menacing, and your regulations and this. Before I can process his intention, his hand darts out. He doesn't grab my arm or shoulder. He grabs the lanyard around my neck and yanks it hard. The strap bites into the back of my neck before the breakaway clasp snaps open. A collective gasp sucks the air from the room. It's a shocking physical act of aggression. The lanyard is in his hand, my keycard swinging from the end like a pendulum. He holds it up high like a trophy he's just taken from a defeated enemy. This, he bellows to the silent room, is the problem. This piece of plastic, this physical credentialing, this single point of failure. He turns to the supply table where conference materials are laid out, finds heavy black office scissors, the kind they use to cut ribbon at corporate ceremonies. How fitting. He holds the lanyard taut, my face on the ID card turned toward the stunned audience. We are not, he says, voice dripping with triumphant condescension, dependent on a single keycard anymore. He brings the scissors up. Snip. The sound is small, just metal shearing nylon. But in the dead silence, it's as loud as a gunshot. He cuts the lanyard clean in two, opens his hand, lets the halves fall. The keycard, my credential, my digital identity, clatters onto the polished conference table. The room is frozen. Tyler drops the scissors next to my severed keycard, looks down at me with a conquering smirk. He's waiting for me to cry, to scream, to run to HR so he can laugh and call me hysterical. I do none of those things. I look at him, my face calm as a lake before a storm. I let the silence stretch, letting every person in that room burn this image into their memory. The smirking VP, the cut keycard, the moment everything changed. Then slowly, I push my chair back and stand. I look at the severed lanyard, at my keycard lying on the table like roadkill. I calmly pick up the pieces and place them on top of my closed laptop. I turn my head and look directly at Tyler Sterling. His smirk falters just slightly. He's confused by my silence, unsettled by my calm. "You just notified the system," I say, my voice not a shout but a simple statement of fact, that the custodian of record has been removed outside of procedure. I turn my back on him and walk out. I don't run. I walk past the shocked faces of managers who've never seen anything like this. I walk to the elevator bank, press the button for the lobby, and don't look back. The moment those elevator doors close, I know what I've left behind. Suffocating silence and the creeping realization that something irreversible has been set in motion. My phone starts buzzing before I reach my truck. By the time I'm in the driver's seat, it's in continuous vibration like a rattlesnake's tail. I don't start the engine. I just pull out my phone and open my Black Terminal app. I type a simple status query. White text scrolls on black. Checking module DYNUS. Handshake failure. Reason code 801.4. Named custodian revoked. Attempting reauthentication. Failed. Federated link severed. System lockout initiated. There it is. Named custodian revoked. The system I designed doesn't understand nuance or corporate politics. It only understands binary logic. Authorized or unauthorized, safe or compromised. The authenticated custodian whose digital signature is baked into every protocol has been forcibly removed from the chain of command. Protocol Sentinel-7 has executed exactly as designed. I can picture the scene in the secure wing right now. Wesley saw the first warning light, then watched every monitor in the room turn Christmas tree red. Robert Sterling is probably sprinting from his executive office, screaming at engineers who are staring at screens with pale faces because nobody deleted a role, nobody changed the architecture. Tyler Sterling took a pair of scissors and cut a person, and my system registered it as a hostile takeover. Within minutes, my phone lights up with an automated email from norapply@fedauditregistry.gov. Subject, status certification invalidated. This is an automated notification. The federated handshake with Lone Star Defense Technologies vendor ID 77B9A was terminated at 10:47 a.m. CST. Reason, named custodian chain broken without mandated 90-day succession buffer. All system access suspended pending manual review. 15 years of certification gone. In the 4 minutes it took me to walk from that conference room to my truck. The rest, as they say, is history. 3 hours of panic, desperate phone calls. Finally, Charlotte Wilson's email marked urgent in red. Critical system-wide failure. Immediate assistance required. My response was 5 sentences setting my terms. $450 per hour, 10-hour minimum retainer, full indemnity, and a formal retraction stating my termination was retaliation, non-negotiable. They accepted everything by 10:30 that night. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my corner office at Blackwater Defense Systems watching the San Antonio skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. Chief Security Architect. Salary tripled. First project, designing executive-proof compliance systems for their $8 billion Air Force contract. Tyler Sterling, customer support at a SaaS company in Austin. When you Google Tyler Sterling defense contractor, the first result is Isabella Martinez's public report detailing his gross negligence in federal compliance protocols. Turns out that follows you around. Lone Star survived, barely. They operate at 30% capacity under federal probation. Robert retired quietly, selling shares for pennies on the dollar. The engineering team I protected? 3 followed me to Blackwater. Sometimes people ask if I feel bad about what happened. The answer is simple. I built a system to protect billions in taxpayer dollars from incompetent leadership. When that leadership attacked the system defended itself. That's not revenge. That's engineering. My phone buzzes. Another defense contractor wanting to know how to build Tyler-proof compliance architecture. Turns out there's quite a market for that kind of expertise.